This is Bruce Friedman of Adult Site Broker, and welcome to Adult Site Broker Talk, where each week we interview one of the movers and shakers of the adult industry, and we give you a tip on buying and selling websites. This week we'll be speaking with Madelaine Thomas of Image Angel. There's some upcoming events we'll be attending. December 3rd and 4th, I'll be at Affiliate World Conference in Bangkok. December 7th through the 9th, I'll be sponsoring AW Summit Elite in Koh Chang, Thailand. And to start the year right, I'll be in Hollywood for XBiz LA. I hope to see many of you at these events. If you'd like to sit down and discuss business at any of these shows, contact us at adultsitebroker.com. We're proud to announce our latest project, thewaronporn.com. You'll find articles on age verification laws and other attacks on our industry. It's to raise awareness of our industry's plight in the war on porn. You'll find all that and more at thewaronporn.com. Now time for our property of the week that's for sale at Adult Site Broker. We're proud to offer a highly active, organically grown Reddit community centered around the stalking and foot fetish niches. With over 158,000 members and strong daily engagement, it's one of the leading spaces for adult fetish content on Reddit. The subreddit has grown rapidly in recent months, adding over 8,000 new members in just the last 30 days. It was launched in 2016 and has grown with zero paid marketing. It's become a top destination within the stalking and foot fetish community, consistently ranking high in related searches and Reddit discovery feeds. The content is user-generated with minimal moderation needed. Unlike many newer subreddits, this one has years of traction, SEO weight within Reddit, and a loyal user base, making it a powerful platform for potential monetization through affiliate links, premium content, cam traffic, or custom funnels. The subreddit has already been lightly tested with a cam white label integration, demonstrating promising early potential. This is a rare opportunity to acquire a top-performing adult niche community on Reddit. There's little upkeep needed, with virtually no overhead or content creation required. Whether you're looking for funnel traffic, build brand awareness, or expand adult content monetization, this offers a well-established and growing foundation with untapped potential. Only $175,000. Now time for this week's interview. My guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk is Madelaine Thomas. Madelaine, thanks for being with us on Adult Site Broker Talk.
You're very welcome, Bruce. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. Madelaine is the founder of Image Angel, a company dedicated to combating non-consensual, intimate image abuse online. As a survivor of image-based sexual abuse, she created Image Angel to offer invisible watermarking technology. This innovation enables platforms to trace unauthorized sharing back to the perpetrator. It's been recommended as best practice by the UK Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. She's also known in the adult industry as Countess Diamond, an award-winning British Dominatrix specializing in chastity and financial domination. She was awarded Sex Worker of the Year 2024 at the Sexual Freedom Awards. Congratulations for that. And dedicates her free time to supporting the advocacy movement of sex workers' rights in the UK and around the world. She's a member of the Digital Intimacy Coalition and the Josephine Butler Society, and co-founded the adult industry consultancy Thornhill Digital. Madelaine, your platform Image Angel addresses intimate image abuse. What was the pivotal moment that made you say, this is the mission I need to pursue?
Oh, gosh. Was there a pivotal moment? I don't know.
I'm asking you.
There were many pivotal moments, I think. As an adult worker, you are prepared for that kind of violation. It's kind of par for the course. And however prepared you think you are for it, you're never really going to be prepared for that breach of trust. You know, even knowing oh, it's a possibility that this could happen. It's the breach of trust that is the worst part. Not necessarily the fact that the content is out there, but that feeling of, oh, shit, that person has harmed me in a way that I now can't come back from. I suppose there was a moment, and this was years after it happened to me, where I sat on my bed and I was just leaning against the wall. I don't know why. I was just sat, just slumped, like, what am I going to do? And that's when it kind of came to me. I thought, I just need a guardian angel. I just need something or someone to look over my content and go, I'll protect you. And that was probably a pivotal moment. But there was also a moment very early on when the content was leaked where I felt, this is it. I'm done. Life is over for me. How do I get back from this? And that was also quite pivotal in a negative, but it was quite pivotal.
Explain that feeling.
Oh, just such hurt. Like I say, you can prepare yourself for it. You know that it's possible. But until you see it out there, that's when you really know how it feels. And I would say most creators at this point know how that feels. And it is, you can taste it. It is so hurtful.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you say it was leaked, were you identified in it?
Yes. Yeah, I was leaked alongside my real name. So it's someone who knew me, which is very hurtful. Yeah. And I still don't know who that was. And I hope they're listening to this right now. Yeah. And I hope they know it's over for them. Yeah. I'm creating a change.
Yeah. Good for you.
Not that I wish to credit them with any of this, discovery and any of this technology, but it certainly sparked something. So, I hope you see this and I hope you go, oh, she bit back.
Yeah. How does Image Angel's tech behind the scenes detect and deter non-consensual image sharing? And how do you balance privacy with protection?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, we create risk, but for the wrong person, the person who has done wrong. There is no change to the user journey. There is no opt-in or opt-out. There's no visual difference to content that is protected by Image Angel. But as a viewer, each time you view an image, it is embedded with an invisible fingerprint, meaning that any access, any view, any download is linked to you. So if you take that image and you save it to your photos and you do nothing with it, nothing happens. You won't even know it's in there. However, if you take that image, you send it to your friend and you say, hey, check out this girl, or you put it onto a website where it does not belong, we can then look into that image and find out who you are. And we find out who they are in a very privacy-preserving way. It's not that we find out who they are and we splash their name all over the front page of OnlyFans. That's not what we do. What we do is provide the origin platform with an individualized hex number. That number is then corresponding to an individual account on their platform, even if that account has been deleted.
So what are the ramifications for somebody who does that?
I always like to believe that when we're embedding this technology and the conversations that we're having with the platforms want to take sex worker views and sex worker experience to the kind of solution. So without compromising ethics, we want to give platforms the choice and be sex worker led in able to set their boundaries and in able to set their sort of outcomes. So it has to be, by our recommendation, it has to be whatever the survivor of this wants is what the survivor gets. So if the survivor wants simply the problem to go away and for a discrete resolution, then let's go for that. If the provider wants to take the full force of the law to this person, then that's the solution we go down. whatever the survivor wants. So it's all survivor-led. That's how we recommend the platforms take action, although it is entirely up to them.
Sure. So, I mean, obviously there's some very strict piracy laws out there.
Yes, absolutely. And this is supporting those piracy laws. But there's a very big difference between piracy and intimate image abuse, and both of those cross over in the adult sector because it's an intimate image privacy abuse. It's not that you're harming a multi-million pounds conglomerate in Hollywood, which is harmful, but you're harming one individual and anyone that individual employs. And it's much more pointed pain and hurt. And it's on statistically, it is strangers that do this to people. I think it's 74% of UK reported instances of intimate image abuse are done by a stranger. So how do we find those people and how do we bring them to justice? And how do we let people know that if this happens, this will happen to you, therefore you're not going to do that anymore? Helping to deter non-consensual image sharing. And it works in a way that is layered with other privacy protections because there is no one solution to securing privacy. This has to be part of a larger stack. So using things like Stop NCII hash lists and anti-screenshotting techniques and things like that.
Okay. So walk us through the biggest hurdle you've encountered building Image Angel.
Oh, probably getting seen by people outside of the industry and being seen as an advocate for a safety technology that makes everyone's life better, not just seen as a sex worker, which is the one challenge I'm coming up against. Yeah. Surprisingly, the banking sector has been really, really helpful.
Really?
Yeah. I've really
They haven't been helpful
surprised.
to anybody else in the adult industry.
No, I know, but I guess it's because it isn't directly adult. But I've made sure that my bank manager, every time I speak to him, I say, and what have you done this month to, help sex workers gain bank accounts and help sex workers access the rights that they deserve in your environment? And every month he's like, and I'm like, why haven't you spoken to your boss about it? Because when people who are sex workers or sex worker allies and sex worker adjacent speak up, we get more people speaking for us and more people fighting for our rights. And it is, at least in the UK, it is not a legal requirement, but it is a part of being a digital citizen that you are entitled to a bank account regardless of what you do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's supposed to be the case in the States too, but realistically, that's not, unfortunately, or a lot of other places in the world. I mean, there's so much financial discrimination. It's just unbelievable. So what has your sex work career taught you about self-advocacy and business ownership?
Oh, what hasn't it taught me? I suppose it's taught me about negotiating, setting boundaries, open communication, because those are the things that you need to do when you're engaging in a scene, right? You need to check in, you need to communicate, you need to check that your communication has been understood in the way that it was intended. So I've learned to negotiate really clearly, and also sort of protect myself. I see myself as valued way higher than I valued myself when I was working a kind of standard 9 to 5. I've found the value in myself. And I guess as well, it's taught me how to run a business, What do I need to look at? I need to look at the bottom line. How do I need to do this? How do I scale? What systems work for me and don't work for me? So I guess I run a few different businesses now and they've all been successful, which not a lot of people can say. And sex work has taught me how to advocate for myself and how to fight for what's right and what I want.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Now, you spoke to Metro about advocating for fair trade porn and industry regulation. What are the next steps towards improving safe working conditions for sex workers?
Yeah, I spoke to Metro and I think it was probably 2023, 2024. And those next steps, I feel, are happening. And it's happening at a time when there's also a development in online safety regulation, which is kind of coming at the same time, which is great. When we talk about regulation and we include the rights and voices of sex workers, then we have skin in the game and a say in what happens. And particularly in the UK, there has been a really strong engagement of Ofcom with sex workers. The sex worker union has had a really pivotal part to play in that as well. And when we develop an understanding of what it means to be a creator earning on a platform, that's when we inform people and they can make informed decisions. Whereas if we're not included in even the conversation, then it happens without us. As the sex worker saying, know about us without us, it's been happening with us in the UK. And there is a very wonderful and interesting movement that's happening. And it's come from the University of Oxford Fair Work Institute. And they have scored every platform in the sex work space to see how ethical it is. So are they transparent with their policies? Are they reactive to concerns? Is there a place that you can go and air your frustrations? And how often do they pay? Are they kind to their earners and things like that? And it's fantastic. And you can really see which platforms are. I know, you can see which platforms are doing well and not doing well. And then you can make an informed choice as a sex worker. And I feel like the advent of bringing on more options for us gives us more power, because we can vote with our feet. We can say, no, I'm not staying on a platform that doesn't value me and doesn't give me the tools and the agency that I deserve. I'm going to walk away and I'm going to go to the next platform. And I think the more we do that as workers and as consumers in general, the more power we have.
That's true. You mentioned the UK Online Safety Act, and it's not exactly pro-adult industry, even though Ofcom has engaged with the adult industry. They're very much getting behind these onerous age verification laws. And in fact, I just heard today, and I believe this was the UK, where they said they want to get rid of quote unquote, barely legal sites, where obviously the performers are of legal age, but the whole theme of it is barely legal. And I mean, Hustler came up with that. So, what are your thoughts on all that?
Oh, it's complex, isn't it? I would say that I am in favor of regulation in the sex work industry, but I'm not in favor of dictating what is and isn't a kink or fetish or interest. But I also believe that there needs to be a change around age of performers. And I do wonder if that would help mitigate the barely legal as a visual cue. So we can still say barely legal, but that worker is 21 and above.
Interesting. Well, it's 18 now, which is the age of consent.
It's the age of consent, but it's not the age of understanding how your future career may be impacted by appearing in a sex film. It's the age of consent for two 18-year-olds to have sex, or, someone who's 18, 19, 20. It's a consenting within context. And I think for pornography, you need to be 21. I mean, in the US, some states, you can't even make an informed choice about taking a drink of alcohol, yet you can spread it all across the internet doing whatever you like. Because there is a belief that giving a young adult, someone who doesn't have the context in which to consume this, access is problematic. And I do kind of believe that might be the way we go in the future. I don't believe it's going to stop any problems. I don't think it's going to stop people still looking for this, but it might help protect people from entering the industry at an impressionable age. I think that another solution as well, because essentially people are looking for extreme acts, and I know this might sound controversial. I think it's important that we recognize that alternative acts that someone is interested in are problematic to the viewer as well. They're not necessarily experiencing those thoughts and feelings willingly. And we should investigate that and perhaps pour a bit more sort of research and concern into what causes that and how do we get someone back on the right track for what we as a society say is right for consuming content.
I mean, what do you call the right track?
Well, I mean, an under 18 person is certainly the wrong track. Yes.
I see what you're saying. So you were talking about extreme content. Okay. There's extreme content and there's illegal content. Those are two different things.
Illegal content, there is a desire for people to view it. Let's explore why. Let's talk about it in therapies and find out what causes that and how can we make that person confront it and stop it. Instead of just going, right, ban, stop, this is bad. It must be terrible to experience those thoughts and feelings and not know where to turn for help.
Well, you're right. So at Sex Tech EU 23, your keynote effectively explored the intersection of sex and technology. What vanilla tech have you adapted in radical ways for your sessions?
I track and trace a lot of my submissives. So I use things like iPhone, Find My iPhone tracking, facial recognition, the control that you can have over having someone's iPhone connected to yours is really fun. So I use that to sort of play games and things like that. I have this one submissive where I can see where he is at any point, and he does a lot of high level sort of business meetings. And what I might do is track where he is, and I will call up the building he's in and ask for him. And it sends him a little rush of adrenaline. So that's very fun.
That's funny. That's really funny.
Sex workers are so good at adapting and finding the pathways through regulation and sort of the constraints of what they've been given. So we can't say this, but we'll say this. We can't do this, but we'll do this. We're very, very savvy.
It would be interesting if you actually showed up there in costume.
Oh, I have, but not in costume.
Oh, I was going to say. Oh, that would be fun. So you've described financial domination as empowering and ethically complex. How do you navigate consent, emotional labor, and maintaining boundaries?
With precision. You are managing high stakes dynamics and often over long-term relationships, like long-term periods. And it requires contracts, even if not legally binding. It requires something on paper that says what you're going to do. Aftercare, therapy. And the goal isn't maximum extraction. It's maximum power exchange. So I guess it's just sort of trust, which is almost contrary to the stereotype, which is I'm taking everything and I'm running. But when I always find it funny because financial domination to me is a controlling relationship. Findom is, as everyone says, money for nothing. But the emotional labor that goes into that conversation, even if it is just, hi, send me $20. Okay, that's still consuming your time. It's still consuming, more often than not, your brand, your visuals. You've worked hard to get that person into your inbox. It is not a one-sided transaction. And I wonder, should more findoms take on the approach of a financial dominatrix and have much more control instead of just big numbers? They'd probably have more success.
Interesting. You continued working as a dominatrix throughout your pregnancy, resuming content creation after a 2-week maternity leave. That's pretty quick. How did that impact your perspective on work, body image, and society's expectations?
I think it made everything clearer because power doesn't disappear when your body changes. It just evolves. I mean, I filmed clips when I was pregnant with 5-figure sales. And that postpartum navigation, whilst difficult, emotionally difficult, I love work. See, I don't think that the problem is with working through pregnancy. The problem is that society punishes that visibility when it doesn't fit the aesthetic of control, when it doesn't look like she's in control and in power. I mean, actually, it's the epitome of power. I'm growing life and dominating men. Watch me.
Excellent.
But it wasn't easy. It certainly wasn't easy.
Nothing worthwhile is, right?
No, absolutely.
You've publicly addressed stigma within the fetish and sex work community itself. What do inter-community judgments look like, and how can they be dismantled?
I think there's a space in sex work where the hierarchy is the hierarchy, and there's certain types of perhaps cam models or just content creators would judge full service workers or people who see people in person. You have that. But you also have sort of providers judging clients, creators judging consumers. And that internalized stigma mirrors society, but we have to dismantle it by recognizing that there's that shared risk and shared interest and refusing to replicate those same exclusions that we all fight for, those external exclusions, and say, actually, we're all in this together. Even if you are a full service sex worker, if you're a cam model, if you're a dominatrix, or you're a consumer of some or very infrequent consuming of porn, we are all in the sex positive space and we are here to support one another. So talking bad about a client or talking bad about a worker are just the same, and we need to stop. And it's on us. It truly is on us. But I do believe we can dismantle it ourselves and continue to influence out. I mean, I call myself a sex worker. I have never had sex with a client, but I don't intend to stop calling myself a sex worker, because when I thrive, everyone thrives. And everyone in the adult industry should call themselves a sex worker. So we empower those around us to be able to run at the same pace we do. Because there are people who work in hugely stigmatized areas and they need our voice while we can and while we have this platform to fight for all of our rights. And so frustrating when I see Bonnie Blue making us all look awful, which I know I've just said we need to empower everyone in this industry.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. It was interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, there's empowering the industry, and then there's siding with Andrew Tate, and we just don't do that. No.
Yeah, she kind of made a spectacle of herself. Well, she made a lot of money, but I mean, she made a spectacle of herself. And Andrew Tate, don't get me started. I mean, goodness gracious.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she made a spectacle of herself, made lots of money, which is great for her, but she trod on progress at the same time.
Yeah, when somebody does something like that, you give the right and the left, both actually, when it comes to politicians, and you give the religious interests, you give the mainstream media all this ammunition to go after all of us. And that's what she did. I mean, was it somewhat amusing? Absolutely. But it was also, I'm not going to say disgusting, but it was a spectacle. Like I said, it was a spectacle. You know, one thing you mentioned the hierarchy. Do you think that that's gotten better?
I'm not sure. I know my circle is great. I know the kind of circle I surround myself with and the people I engage with. I'm educating and I'm changing minds, but I won't have anyone in my circle that doesn't respect sex workers. So as far as I can tell, my circle is going good, but I wouldn't be able to speak for the wider sex work community.
Because I think the fact that cam models and creators and people like me, who do B2B, pretty much call themselves sex workers. I think that in itself kind of breaks the hierarchy down a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I believe it does. I don't like it when I see a content creator who's sort of in the spicy industry and they say, "Oh, it's not sex work." Well, I mean, you're entertaining in a sexual manner for money, just the same as many of your peers do. Don't be afraid of calling yourself a sex worker. It's empowering. Own it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So the Josephine Butler Society champions full decriminalization to avoid an equality of injustice. How do you approach that ideal in modern legislative efforts?
Yeah, the ideal. It's very tough, especially when you're speaking with legislators and policymakers, and they don't understand where you're coming from because they have never engaged with sex workers and sex work. So I believe utopia for a decriminalized future is a world where our labor, regardless of its preconceived idea, is respected. It's not romanticized. It's not criminalized. Where tech, because it can help, where tech helps us set boundaries and doesn't break down our efforts, doesn't discriminate against us. And when nobody says, but what are you going to do when you're old and grey? You know, what's your backup plan? Because this is the plan and it's working. This is my job, my career, and I'm happy. And as a woman, as a person, I should be allowed to continue if I'm happy.
Absolutely. You should do it as long as you're enjoying yourself.
Yeah, but people do always say, what are you going to do when you're old? Well, I'm bloody old now.
We probably have a difference of opinion on that, but anyway.
I feel it.
Oh, please don't. I'm 67, so I have my days. What are the main online threats facing sex workers today?
Yeah, the main online threats facing sex workers is definitely the Nordic model coming into online spaces. So stopping creators from making content that is personalized, bespoke, commissioned, essentially. And I feel like that is such a unnecessary harm to criminalize someone for wanting to buy some entertainment and some art that is to their niche. It's just so ridiculous. And I feel like that is the biggest harm that's happening at the moment. If that is taken and studied, what are we going to find? Are we going to find that creators are doing exactly as they were, only they're now doing it in a more unsafe environment? Yes, absolutely. That's what we're going to find. We're going to find that creators are using sort of bypassing methods, different ways of communicating with coded language, and it just makes things unsafe. But it'll go into the hands of the pro-Nordic model groups, and they will say, aha, look how many instances of this harm we have avoided. No, it's not avoided. It's just not recorded because nobody's willing to talk about it now.
But I mean, harm, it's not harm, it's commerce. And I mean, Sweden, really? Oh my God. I mean, that's supposed to be one of the most sexually open countries in the world. It just absolutely blows me away. You know, I liken that to the Fosta-Sesta law in America that took pretty much all the major escort sites and took them away. And so what are the in-person sex workers supposed to do? Obviously, it drives them out to the streets and makes them less safe.
Yes. Yeah, it absolutely does. If this is your job and your income is steady and then all of a sudden those markets shift, you're just going to carry on doing what you're doing. You're just going to do it in a more unsafe way because you want to. And unfortunately, you're left to make that choice. I think it's so harmful. And also general sort of changing of the landscape in online spaces. If we don't do it with consideration and preparation that's a big impact on sex workers. So, for example, the Online Safety Act, when that was coming in, we were in discussions with Ofcom for years, absolutely, literally years. We're in discussion with different platforms, talking about how they're going to roll these systems out. We work with one platform and we said, we recommend you roll this system out months in advance and you offer your platform visitors the option of verifying their identity. And you say, look, you're going to have to do it at some point. Would you like to do it now or do it later? And the majority of people, by the time the law came in, had already done it. And it didn't have that one drop off.
Because in the sites that I've talked to, they've had about a 90% click out rate with the US age verification laws.
Yeah, because they're not using consultants to give them advice, probably.
No doubt. No doubt at all. They're just hiring companies to do their age verification platform. But I mean, like a 90% click out rate, that just puts people out of business, which is what the politicians want. They want to put us out of business.
Yeah, they do. And that's why we need to be careful when we make a change on a website where people rely for their income that things remain the same. We need to be slow and steady and considerate and informative. We need to tell people this is what's happening. So as a consumer, but also as a creator working on that platform, you're more informed and you can say to your very loyal, to your loyal customers, oh, did you know that, wrestling is going to be banned soon? Oh, is it? Oh, really? Okay. Well, I'll buy all your clips now then for wrestling. Okay. Yeah, do that, and then forewarned is forearmed. And we can say with a bit of transparency that this thing's happening. Should we try and do this? Yeah, let's do that. Okay. And it's my job basically to subtly suggest to platforms the best way to do things whilst maintaining worker cohesion, whilst maintaining no change for workers. Because being a worker, experiencing those drops in platforms, it's so harmful. And if we are mitigating harm, then changes need to happen slowly.
Correct. No, that's absolutely true. And they're happening fast, and that's the problem. Oh, the UK took 10 years, but that's another story. What can platforms do to create a safer working environment for the sex workers using their site?
They can consult with sex workers directly and ask them what makes things work for you. What is good? What do you like? What do you want? And work in cohesion. And, great. They could also not charge us a massive fee, but that is the cost of doing business. That's life. If you want someone to run a safe, secure platform, take 20%, fine. But if you're going to run a platform that barely works, where you don't communicate to me, you don't tell me what's happening when it's happening, and I'm experiencing these system outages, and then the price is going up, I'm going to walk away. Because I am a consumer of that product as well. And if I don't feel like I've been consulted in any part of this, there's going to be, I hope, more people moving with their money and with their voices to different, more sustainable, more ethical platforms.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but anyway, that's another story. What does utopia look like for you when you think of an ideal future with decriminalized sex work?
It's respected labor, absolutely. And like I said earlier, not romanticized, not criminalized, not seen as this siren of scandalous story, but just seen as a worker working with an asset that they have, which is their mind and body, in the same way an accountant or a bricklayer might. Respected, well paid, with the rights that they deserve. That's utopia. We're not asking for much more than your average hairdresser already has, right? We're asking for the bare minimum. Hire us, pay us, protect us.
Yeah. Can't ask for much more than that. Age verification, we just talked about, is just come into effect in the UK. What are the changes you're seeing it have on the online sex work landscape, and what further changes do you predict?
Well, I've been keeping an eye on the Ofcom publications to see what's been happening where. And I've also been in communication with various age verification methods, just asking them, what's going on in your world. There's been a lot of platforms complying, actually. I haven't seen a platform that is now not compliant. There were tech glitches, there were workarounds in the beginning, but in the last few days, they've certainly stepped up. In terms of the different age verification methods and how easy they are to bypass, that's not something I've been looking into.
Yeah, that was what I was about to bring up with VPNs.
But I've definitely seen there are 35 different platforms that are not currently protected with age verification. And ironically, Ofcom listed them. All of those are owned by 3 individual businesses in the US. And you know what? I actually can't wait for those to be banned, blocked from the UK, because the content on there is largely non-consensual.
Non-consensual?
Absolutely. I know for a fact that some of my content is on there and I do not want it on there and I can't get it off.
Oh, you're talking about like some big tube sites.
Yeah. But unfortunately, in the short term, those platforms will see an uptick in their visitors. So for this very short period, they are going to see a massive boom in their income because of the ad revenue. How that plays out in the long term, I don't know why they would do it, but whatever. It's not my call.
Mm-hmm. So what's next for Image Angel, Thornhill Digital, and Countess Diamond?
What's next for Image Angel? We are scaling. So we've already developed the watermarking for video. And for live capability as well. So now we're expanding our integrations across adult platforms and moving into dating. There will come a time where particularly UK platforms or UK serving platforms will need to submit their kind of findings for how safe and harm-free their platforms are. And I'm so excited to be able to be named in some of those. Yeah, really looking forward to it. I mean, like from a violation to creating this tech and making sex workers safer, it's just been such a wonderful journey. But for Countess Diamond, I don't know. I think I'm just gonna carry on. It's my career in sex work is so good. I don't know how. It's just wonderful.
I think I do. I think you know what you're doing and you keep getting better at it.
Yeah. But me, it's just me. I don't know. It's just crazy when I look back at the opportunities I've had and the people I've met. I don't know. Honestly, some people meet me and they're like, oh my God, it's you. And I'm like, yeah, it's just me. It's just me. But for Thornhill Digital, we're expanding our reach. We're scaling that as well. I mean, I'm literally scaling so many different things at once. But we are basically consulting with a lot more platforms that want to be more ethically aligned, more in line with what sex workers want. And I'm hiring. I am hiring sex workers because sex workers are the most tenacious, smart, dedicated people. I don't want to work with anyone who has never been a sex worker. I want people who have been there, done it, got the t-shirt. It's specialized knowledge. And I want to surround myself with people with that respect, that knowledge, that life experience. So across each of my different platforms, there's loads of opportunities for hiring people as we scale.
Great. Kind of sounds a little bit like like Carly David's business model, where she works. Her entire team is sex workers. I don't know if you're familiar with her. PS
no, I'm
group.
not. But
Yeah. You'd like her.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I know the PS group. Right.
Yep.
Oh, fab.
You gotta get to a US show one of these days.
Well, I do sometimes come over, but more for sort of, I don't know. I was over with the UN end of last year. That was good fun.
Yeah. Very good. Well, Madelaine, I'd like to thank you for being our guest today on Adults and Broker Talk, and I hope we'll get a chance to do this again soon.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been wonderful to come here.
Thank you.
My broker tip today is part 10 of what to do to make your site more valuable for when you decide to sell it later. Last week, we talked about what information to give a potential buyer And what determines the value of a site? We'll continue that today. If a site hasn't been monetized, then it's all about the amount and the quality of the traffic. If a sale is based on traffic, it will be a multiple of what the traffic would sell for on the open market. What are the sources of traffic? Direct traffic, search engine traffic, and review traffic are the most valuable. Tube traffic, the least valuable. Is the traffic reliable and sustainable? What is the traffic history? In a rare case, the valuation will be based upon revenue. The same factors apply to that as of profit, but of course the valuations will be lower than those of profits. How old is the website? Is the domain a .com or something else? .com is still king. How many inbound links are there? How much staff does it take to run the site? How many email addresses do you have? In the case of a dating site, this is very important. Another factor can be the reverse engineering cost. How much would it cost to build the site from scratch and drive the same amount of traffic to it, and how much time would be involved? What is the lifetime value of a customer on the site? Next week, how to buy a website. And next week, we'll be speaking with adult industry attorney Larry Walters. And that's it for this week's Adult Side Broker Talk. I'd once again like to thank my guest, Madelaine Thomas of Image Angel. Talk to you again next week on Adult Side Broker Talk. I'm Bruce Friedman.